Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here in the Instant Hockey channel. Today we got a quick news update video here, talking about a couple of signings, a couple of new captains, and a small trade that happened over the past couple of days. Because all that coming up right now. Hello and welcome to another video here at the Internet Hockey channel. Now, as usual, I'm going to kick things off today. Just a quick news update video here, nothing too fancy. We've still got a couple of other videos coming up in the not too distant future, talking about the season preview series like we usually talk about. Today we're going to be talking about the Dallas Stars and Minnesota Wild, the Anaheim Ducks and San Jose Sharks, so stay tuned for that. But I just want to get to a quick news update video here. So first, with the signings that happened over the past couple of days, 3 RFAs have signed new deals, one in Arizona, one in Ottawa, one in Minnesota. First, Jenik signs a 1-year deal with a $775,000 AAV, so league minimum, with the Arizona Coyotes. Jenik's a fantastic bomb 6 forward. He's been playing mostly in the AHL over the past couple of years. Put up 7 goals and 23 points in 30 games last year at the AHL level. He's played in 17 total games over his career over the past couple of seasons, putting up 4 goals and 8 assists for 5 points. I think he stands a good chance this year to be possibly the Coyotes' 4th-line center. The Coyotes did get a lot better, and their top nine's a lot more fantastic this year, so it's a lot deeper team. But I still think Jenik stands a good chance to be the Coyotes' 4th-line center. So that's a good signing in my opinion. It's league minimum, it's not too much. It's only for the next year. And if Jenik can prove that he's a good NHL forward, I think he could get a bump in pay raise next year. So a good signing for the Arizona Coyotes. Their RFA business is done now. And even though Jenik hasn't been able to establish himself yet as a solid NHL forward, I think there's a very good chance that Jenik does wind up getting to be a solid NHL forward this upcoming season. Next, over in Ottawa, they still have to sign Shane Pinto, who's an RFA at this point in time, but they did sign their other RFA business that they needed to get done, and that is Egor Sokolov, who also gets a 1-year league minimum $775,000 AAV deal. So, not a bad contract there. It sounds like the holdup there was the AHL salary. Sokolov does get a pretty decent AHL salary, given the fact he could go to the minors. So, it's a decent deal for Sokolov. At this point in time, he's basically a fringe NHL player. He could definitely be, I think, a good bomb 6 forward this upcoming season for Ottawa. He could be a spare, like a 13th, 14th forward, but I could also see him be a solid AHL player. Last year, put up 21 goals, 59 points in 70 AHL games, but also put up a goal and assist, 2 points in 5 NHL games. I think he could definitely be a solid NHL forward. I think he could definitely challenge for like a bottom 6 role for the Ottawa Senators this year. Maybe he won't get it. I don't think he would be a spare. So I think it would either be a solid bottom 6 forward going into this upcoming season, or he probably goes to the AHL. But he's a solid player. I think long term he probably fits on that 3rd line for the Ottawa Senators. So I think that's a possibility. On top of that, he's a really good young player. So I think either he goes to AHL this year or he's a solid bomb 6 forward. But either way, that's a solid deal for Sokolov, and Ottawa has more RFA business now done. And the last one here was Addison, who signed for, surprisingly, a 1-year deal with an AAV of $825,000. Not too bad of a deal. I think this is actually a really good steal of a deal for the Wild. I thought Addison would have at least gotten somewhere around $1.5 million, if not more. So good to see the Wild were able to get Addison at only $825,000. He's a solid top 4 defenseman in my opinion. Last year had a really good breakout season, putting up 3 goals, 29 points in 62 games. Looks like a fantastic defenseman for the Minnesota Wild. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. Long term, I think he's probably a solid top 4 defenseman and someone who I think this year will easily be able to replace Dumba. So I think he's probably going to play second pair minutes, maybe with a guy like Jonas Brodin. So I thought he would have gotten a little bit more in my opinion, so I am quite surprised. But it is a 1-year deal, so if Addison can replicate or do better than what he did last year, which is putting up 29 points, if he can put up 30 or 40 points this year, he's going to get a pay raise for next year. So this is a solid deal in my opinion for the Wild this year. It's a really good cap savings for them. I would have thought Addison would have gotten a lot more. So good to see them get him at only $825,000. He's a solid top 4 defenseman in my opinion. A guy who can easily put up a ton of points. A guy who I think will replace Dumba this year. And in my eyes, this is a fantastic deal for the Wild. So good to see that Addison signs his new deal. He didn't take too long to sign it. And now Addison is going to go to training camp with the Wild and hopefully keep a top 4 role going into the season. So you got Addison, who's got a really good deal with the Minnesota Wild. Sokolov and Jenik signed league minimum deals with the Sens and the Coyotes. Some pretty good deals there. Only 4 RFAs left before the season starts. You have Tim Burney with the Jackets, solid depth defenseman. I'm not really sure why his is taking so long. He's a decent depth defenseman, got some NHL action last year, but he's still most likely a depth defenseman. And then you also have Shane Pinto in Ottawa, who we've been talking about over the past little while, is still an unsigned RFA for the Senators, needs to be done in the not-too-distant future. And then the Ducks still have their 2 big RFAs in Jamie Drysdale and Trevor Zegras, who are still not done. And apparently they're really far apart, according to some reports, on deals. So for the Ducks, I'd say they need to try and get closer on a deal. It sounds like Pinto's contract could be done in the near future, but for a time being, Pinto, Drysdale, Zegras, and Burney, the 4 remaining RFAs left. So good to see the RFA business has dwindled down to only those. We got a couple of new captains being announced. We talked about this on Tuesday, but the Blues and now also the Boston Bruins have officially named new captains. So first with the St. Louis Blues, they announced that the St. Louis Blues' new captain is going to be Brayden Schenn. Schenn's a fantastic option for captain, in my opinion. When I was talking on Tuesday, I said it was probably going to be either Schenn or Thomas, or possibly Kyrou maybe, or possibly even Falk. So I said it was probably one of those guys, and it does wind up being Schenn. Schenn's a really good player. He's been with the St. Louis Blues the past number of years. I think he's been with the Blues the past 5 or 6 seasons. He's signed for, I think, the next 5 years on a really long-term contract. He's an extremely good leader on that team. He's probably one of the more bigger veterans on that team, and he's definitely a leader in and out of the locker room. So definitely, I think that was the right choice for captain. I could have seen Thomas or Kyrou or possibly Falk, just given the fact that those are all pretty good leaders on that team too. But I think Schenn was probably the right choice. So Schenn's become the new captain of the St. Louis Blues, and going forward, he's going to be the new captain. The Boston Bruins have also named their new captain, as they announced that Brad Marchand is going to be their new captain, taking over from Patrice Bergeron, who when he retired this year, wound up letting go of the captaincy. So that's a good choice in my opinion. Honestly, I did think Marchand or McAvoy probably, could have got it, given the fact that they're younger and they're also signed for a longer period of time. But even though they didn't do that, I still think that Marchand's really a solid choice for captain. As much as he has had his antics in the past, I think he's a fantastic leader on and off the ice for the Boston Bruins. And now without Bergeron, without Chara, who was a captain as well before, I think he's going to be the new face of the franchise for the next couple of years. Depends on what happens. Like I said, he's going to be a UFA not this upcoming season, but the following off season. So it's going to be interesting to see if he does stick around longer than those 2 years. But I think that he was the right choice to be captain. I just thought that McAvoy or Pastrnak might have been a little more appealing given the fact that they were younger and on longer-term contracts. But still, really good job in my opinion for the Bruins to name Marchand captain, Blues to name Schenn captain, and now we only have 6 teams left without a captain in Anaheim, Arizona, Chicago, Calgary, Philadelphia, and the Seattle Kraken. Definitely love to hear your thoughts on who you think is possibly still going to be named captain before the NHL season starts. Going over to a small trade we had just a little while ago. So going over to the Vancouver Canucks and Montreal Canadiens, the trade is as follows. The Vancouver Canucks acquire Casey DeSmith from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Tanner Pearson and a 2025 third-round pick. This is a fantastic deal, in my opinion, for both sides. We knew the Canucks were trying to clear cap space. We know Montreal was trying to find a new home for Casey DeSmith, and both things wound up happening in this trade. So first, we'll look at the Montreal Canadiens. We said that they had a really crowded goaltending core. They have Primo, they have Allen, they have Montembeault, they had DeSmith, so they have 4 really good goaltenders. Trey DeSmith gives them down only 3. Primo's waivers eligible, so I'm still not sure what's going to happen with him. But Montembeault and Allen are still a really good tandem, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But Montreal's a really, really good position there in the goaltending core, so they could make do with trading DeSmith. So they acquire Pearson. Entering the final year of his deal, $3.25 million cap hit, had a goal for, assists, 5 points in 14 games last year, spent most of the season injured. It seems like the Canucks just wanted to give him a fresh start after all the injury troubles he had last year and all the mishandling of hand surgery that the Canucks were reportedly having with him. So I think that's a fantastic job for them. Now, Pearson, he's probably going to take a spot away from one of those younger players in Montreal. I would expect he probably gets a bottom six role, at least to start the season, just so he can work back up to speed to be a solid player. I would expect him to probably be a third, fourth line forward for the Canadiens. So that's a solid deal, in my opinion, for the Canadiens. Getting Pearson, because he's in the final year of his deal, if he can play well, the Canadiens could flip him to the trade deadline for possibly another pick. So that's a solid pickup, in my opinion. Pearson could be a good bottom six forward and possibly even be a trade chip further down the line for the Canadiens. They also get the Canucks 2025 third round pick, so adding some more draft capital for the troubles of adding some more cap space, which is not really going to be overly concerning for them, given the fact that Christian Dvorak and Carey Price are most likely going to start the season long-term injury reserve. Those will give them plenty of cap space. For the Canucks, they do have Casey the Smith now, so we know they had a logjam in the wingers position. They probably still do have a bit of a logjam, but it's a lot less now with Pearson gone. I think there's still a likely chance they could possibly still move someone, but clearing this amount of cap space, $1.45 million, would probably be a necessary enough cap space to become cap compliant before the season starts. So I think this should be the Canucks' most likely only move. I think they could still maybe make one more move, but for the time being, I think the Canucks are most likely done making moves. So they move a winger, they do move a third round pick, but it gets them some cap space, and it gets them Casey the Smith. The Smith is a fantastic option, in my opinion, to be backup for the Canucks. He's been backup with Tristan Jarry over the past couple of years in Pittsburgh. Last year had a decent showing, putting up a 3.17 goals against average, a 905 save percentage in 38 games played in Pittsburgh. He's shown in the past he can be a decent backup goaltender, possibly 1B goaltender. Demko is a guy who can play 50 to 60 games, so the Smith doesn't need to play a ton of games. But we saw last year that when Demko went down with injury, the Canucks had Spencer Martin, the Canucks had Colin Delia, the Canucks had Arthur Solovs, and none of them were really possibly starting material. I mean, Martin's lost 10 games in a row. Delia didn't really play overly well until later into the season. Solov still needs some more time in the AHL. So getting a solid backup like the Smith to back up Demko, maybe give him some nights off, and on top of that, be there as insurance in case Demko got hurt again, I think that's a fantastic deal in my opinion. So the Canucks get a fantastic backup. I think it's a major upgrade on Marchand. I think he's going to be a fantastic backup, and it really solidifies that backup position for the Vancouver Canucks behind Demko. For the Canadiens, they finally move on from the Smith, and they get a decent bottom six forward in Pearson, who he could possibly flip at a deadline, and a third round pick for taking on a little bit more cap space. So that's a really good deal in my opinion, but that's all I'm going to talk about here today. Training camp's now started, so we're going to be getting some roster cuts in the not too distant future, possibly a couple of trades. We're definitely going to get a couple of injury updates as well, so we'll get to all of that later. We're going to have another video on Saturday talking about this news, updates and stuff, so definitely stay tuned for that. Also stay tuned for the season preview series videos coming up in the not too distant future, talking about Dallas, Minnesota, Anaheim, and San Jose, so don't forget to stay tuned for that. But that's what I want to talk about here in this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that was discussed today. What do you think of the Blues and Bruins new captains? What do you think of the 3 signings? And what do you think of the Habs and Canucks trade? Definitely love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you really like to, remember to subscribe down below. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so definitely check that out. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.